and I went home and I graded your pre-assessments, and I can't wait to tell you the results of them, but not today. So you guys started reading about the plant system, and you each had a role in what you were going to be taking notes on. You're each going to be taking notes on a different subsystem. And we didn't have enough time to finish yesterday. Okay.
What's a subsystem?
The subsystem is the different parts of a plant and how they work together. So the plant system is how the whole thing works together, right? We know that the roots collect the water that goes up the stem and mixes with the chlorophyll from the leaf, and the sun energy transfers in as heat energy, and the air comes in. That's how it all works together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all go towards the flower to grow, help reproduce and grow new flowers, correct? So each of the main parts of the flower, the stem, the leaf, and the roots, they are all subsystems. Each one of them plays its own important role in the whole system, right? So even though they all work together to help the flower reproduce and grow a new plant, the root system has its own specific function. Does that make sense? Ricardo?
Can a subsystem have its like own subsystem?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Remember yesterday we talked about the school being the whole system and the different parts of the school being subsystems? You remember that conversation? And how the office, if it wasn't here, we'd all be confused and wouldn't know where our notes, what bus we were going to take. Inside, and the 5th grade, we'll say you guys are a subsystem. Each of you has a role in this classroom, right? If some of you weren't here, the system would fall apart because we all work together. Another great example of a subsystem is the giver. In the giver, that is a perfect example. Think of how they work as a community, and they all have their each important roles, and they all work together as a community. And if the food service people weren't there to deliver the food in the morning, Jonas would be hungry, right? So even though they work as a whole, as a community, each subsystem has a very important role in it. And in the subsystem of the food community, I would imagine that there are people that are actually cutting the food and preparing the food and cooking the food and delivering the food and doing the dishes. And in that subsystem, I would imagine that there's probably somebody collecting the food and washing it before it gets cut, before it goes on to the next thing. So just like we talked about, the whole universe goes into many subsystems. Each of those little subsystems might have an even smaller subsystem. So with that, today you guys are going to continue your reading because I didn't give you enough time yesterday. Zoe, I am going to give you the part of, let's see, the flowers. So on the top of your page, you're going to write plant systems will be your primary heading. And then underneath that, I would like you to write a subheading of flowers. Okay? And, Craig?
Wait, are we going to gather our groups? Because you said today we were.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So here's what we are going to do first. First of all, we're going to complete our reading. Can anybody remember what your purpose in reading is going to be? Savannah, what is your purpose in reading?
My purpose is to take out one of the pieces of information for your part of the plant, and that tells us how it works and what its function is.
Absolutely. Does that make sense to everybody? So your job when you're reading, Zoe, since you weren't here yesterday, I'll explain it to you. Like Savannah said, your job is going to be reading the text, but you're going to be, even though you're reading the whole text, while you're reading it, you're going to be looking for information about the flowers. And like Savannah said, when you find something that helps you understand what a flower's job is or what its function is, that's the information that you're going to be writing down. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about what we are going to be doing? Archer.
So we find the place that we were at when we started reading yesterday, and then we find everything about our subject.
Absolutely. If you began reading the text yesterday and stopped at a certain point, please do not start over again. I never want you to repeat the exact same thing again. That's a waste of your time. So pick up where you left off yesterday and keep reading. If you didn't begin yesterday, you'll start at the beginning. Tyler. When you are done, I would like you to review your notes and make sure your notes are good. I'm going to give you guys about a half an hour to finish your reading. That should be plenty enough time. If you get done ahead of time, you're more than welcome to pull out a book and read, or if you have homework, that's always an excellent option. If you are not absolutely done in 30 minutes, you're going to be okay, because here's what's going to happen after we finish reading. After we finish reading, I'm going to group all of the flowers together. I'm going to group all of the stems together, all of the leaves together, and all of the root systems together. And then you're going to, and then in your flower group, all the flowers are going to come up with important information that they can share out about flowers. Does that make sense? To make sure that you guys are all experts on flowers. And the roots group, you guys are going to come up with information that you're going to share that are going to make you experts on roots. Savannah.
So we're not going to be writing it down. So we're not going to be writing it down. We're going to be just going to be talking about it.
I'm going to discuss that when we get to that point. I don't want to get ahead of myself because then I'll have to repeat it again. Okay? I'm just giving you a teaser, a trailer. So here's what we're going. Colby, did you have a question? Okay. If you were not here yesterday, I'm going to give you the role of roots. So as you read, I want you to look for roots. Haley, were you here yesterday? No. You are going to be stems. You were looking for stems. Okay. Was anybody else not here yesterday before? Okay, perfect. Craig.
When I was looking through this yesterday, I saw that there was a group on seeds. Wouldn't there be like those three a group of seeds probably?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a very good question. So seed is something that is produced by the plant. Does that make sense? Okay.
Out in the grade school, if you were doing flowers, is that what you would write down? Because the seeds are part of the flower.
There you go. If you want to include the seeds in the part of the flower, because the flower's job is to create the seeds, correct? So it's like in the subsystem of the flower. There you go. Nicely said. All right. Are we all clear on what we're going to be doing? I'm going to give you a half an hour to read. And you are going to be taking notes. Ricardo, what are you going to be taking notes on? Perfect. Do you have to write full sentences?
No.
Can you write bullets?
Yes.
All right. Do you need to write everything?
No.
Just what makes sense to you, which helps you, what information helps you better understand what is going on in the text. Are we good?
Yes.
Thumbs up? All right. Go, go, go.